presentation that we're providing is really intended to be helpful information for you, and it reflects the expert advice between me and Alan and Fran, but it is not construed to be legal or regulatory advice because depending on your specific product, some of the information could be different. So we just wanted to make sure to state that ahead of time. So Alan, do you want to jump in for our on-body injector?
Sure, yeah, and this is, I'm seeing some of the questions that are coming through related to some of the things we're discussing, so I'll try to weave in some answers here as we go through, particularly on the user-dependent. I think that that's something that is going to be sort of a point of discussion here. So, for delivered dose, and again, this is, there's variations on the types of designs that we might see, particularly as we move away from something like a prefilled syringe up to something more complicated like an OBI, where, in order to assure that we have the delivered dose, we have a number of things that are occurring on the device. It's delivering a volume. It has to maintain its contact with the body through, an adhesion mechanism. There's an injection time, there may be some intervals of delivery, depending on the design of the drug delivery functions. And related to these, we have dose accuracy, adhesion force, injection time, and then again, the delivery interval specification. And these are all would be related directly to the design of the device. And in that case, there would be EDDOs. For preparation, we have, steps or tasks associated with removing caps, potentially filling the OBI, either with a syringe or a pen, removing peeling the adhesive backing, cleaning and preparing the site that's going to be injected. The related outputs, again, we could have cap removal force. There would be instructions on how to accomplish, any filling or loading steps of the device. If there are, other products, like syringes that are packaged with the OBI, there could be, Brickless Glide Force or, other like syringe-specific EDDOs. And there's an adhesion force, and then obviously cleaning skin, there's, instructions related to those. So for user dependent, and I'm, so yeah, if you want to click through these. So Susan, as we're getting questions about, how do we really sort of interpret user dependence? And I'm looking back at the guidance, some of, what the agency has said is that it's not intended to address the human factors aspects, and they're trying to filter out things that are intended to capture the device, what the device is doing in terms of delivering the drug or the preparation or initiation steps. And I think this is really where this comes in, is when you're preparing the device or you're initiating the device for delivery, pushing a button, removing caps, et cetera. And there's other tasks involved, as we see here, like, cleaning the skin, for example. Where's the line between its user or human factors versus its a device function? And so part of, the way I've been interpreting what the agency is saying here is the goal or their intent with this is to focus on device performance and ensuring reliable device performance as it relates to drug delivery. And so where the user or the patient is mainly responsible for achieving the drug delivery function, for example, if you had a handheld injector or a prefilled syringe and you had to hold that device against the body for a certain period of time, the user's ability to do that is not mostly driven by, do they understand how long they're supposed to hold it, or are they capable of holding it? It's not really a device design or engineering function in that case. Versus when we start talking about like cap removal force, there are design elements to, how much force does it take to remove the cap? And so those are the aspects I think that the the agency is really describing here. And that's how we can get into, in this case, cap removal or, peeling off the adhesive backing and the adhesion force of the adhesive itself are design elements of the device that are being selected by the manufacturer and not really related to the user's understanding or capability of using the device.
Yeah, when you get into human factors, what I'm sure we'll talk about this more later, but and I start thinking about combination product critical tasks. The combination product critical tasks are going to be, there's going to be a lot more interaction with what's the intended use of that specific product. Is it for emergency use? And therefore the cap removal force is really critical. Like I've got to be able to quickly remove it, but it's got to be able to keep my container closure integrity. I can see that why people would be confused about, well, wait, it is considered a combination product critical task to perform that step for a product based on its emergency use, but is it still considered an essential drug delivery output for that product if it is being applied to a non-emergency use product? And the whole point is there's subjectivity to it, right? But I don't know if you want to comment on that more.
Well, I think, I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, the cap removal, since that's up here on the screen, there's a lot of like the actual force, like the interaction between the cap and the body of the injector, the actual force that's required to be applied to remove the cap is the specification that's actually described in the guidance as what the agency is looking at. From the human factors standpoint, there's a lot of other design elements involved in the design of the cap that play into whether users are going to be successful or likely to be successful in being able to consistently remove the cap. So on one hand, I think we're looking at like the consistency of the production of the product and able to meet that force to remove the cap. And on the human factors side is, are there geometrical elements or other material attributes of the device that make it easier for a patient to remove the cap? And so it is definitely a human factors issue, but there's also some design and quality control elements to it as well. And so all of that matters, and the agency is looking at all of it. In terms of what we're describing here as being the EDDOs, they're looking at like one specific aspect of the design, which is being controlled.
Okay, so then we move to the target site.
Yeah, so target site, we've got, two aspects. Are you selecting the correct site, whether it's abdomen or leg or whatever for the device? And then is the device itself actually getting the drug into the correct tissue space? So one would be, is the patient putting the device in the correct location? The other is the device actually putting the needle or the cannula into the correct tissue for drug delivery?
Oops, so it should say cannula, sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on the design, yeah. So you could have, in the first case, that would be totally dependent on the user. And the second would be dependent on the design of the device. Do they activate the injector? You got to apply it. There might be some time elements, depending on the design. If you have to apply it to the body before the device automates some functions, and then do you have to activate the dose? And again, some of this is going to be largely dependent on the specific design features of your product. And associated with that, there's forces to activate buttons, there's feedback mechanisms, there's instructions for use, to make sure that you do things in the right order, do it at the right time, apply in the right location. And then based on that, some of these are design elements, and some of them are user requirements.